Hey guys, Zaku Otaku here, and I'm going to answer the question, just what exactly is gachapon? So maybe you've heard the word gachapon, or gacha gacha, or maybe even just gacha, and you're wondering what it is. Well, it's essentially just capsule toys, like what you might find outside of a supermarket or a shopping center in America or Australia. But the difference is the quality is much higher in these figurines, and generally the price is a little bit higher too. They typically come in these little plastic balls like this, which interestingly are actually the inspiration for Pokeballs in the original Pokemon. So if that design looks familiar to you, well, that's why. Usually the price varies from about 200 to 500 yen, which would be about $2 to $5 American, or about $3 to $7 Australian. I'm not very good at math, sorry. But these figurines are generally much more varied in style and design and also kind of ideas than you might find in your typical capsule toy in a Western country. For example, some of the more interesting items are miniature versions of household goods, like for example, washing machines or umbrellas and all sorts of other things in miniature form, but also some high quality, really good looking collectible figurines of popular animation or video games or Godzilla and so on. Kind of places you can find these gachapon figurines really vary. The cheaper, lower quality stuff you'll usually find outside of shopping centers and outside of supermarkets like you would in the States, and these are usually like kind of more childish goods like Hello Kitty and Doraemon and stuff like that. But for the more collectible stuff, usually you'll find them in designated gachapon stores, which are these incredible shops with hundreds of these machines. There's just so many of them, and they're all in this one place, and you can very easily spend thousands of yen or tens of dollars just on a couple of figurines in these places. And the quality of these is usually much better. The rotation is usually quite high as well. They're usually changing up the different prizes and toys inside on a near daily basis. So you could go into these places one day and by the next day there's going to be something new inside. Another cool feature about these shops is of course there's usually coin changing machines, so if you've got a 1,000 yen note you can usually change it into the 100 yen coins, which you'll need in order to use these capsule machines. Another really cool thing that I've noticed in more recent shops is like little corners that are good for photo opportunities. So they'll do like little scenery places, like these little boxes where you can set up your little figurines and, you know, post it to Instagram or whatever, which I think is a really cool opportunity to make your figurines come alive. It's a really cool idea, these shops. I wish that they had them back home. There's not really anything like this in the States or in Australia. They're a real league of their own, these figurines. And I'm going to show some of the ones that are some of my favorites that I've collected over the years of living in Japan. One of my favorites here is Japanese Spider-Man. I think he looks really phenomenal. I think the attention to detail is really cool. And if you're wondering how this guy fit in this capsule, a lot of the time these will come apart. Oh my god, his arms come off! And I think even his head might come off too. Or maybe his legs from his torso. Yeah. Oh my god. So there you go. He comes apart, and then those will be arranged in some way that fits into the gacha ball, or Pokeball, I guess. And the assembly is usually pretty straightforward. I messed that up, but there you go. And he's back together. So it's not like Lego or anything like that. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can usually look at the figurine and figure out how it's going to go together. Sometimes there's instructions included, but they're really not necessary. So I also mentioned that there's a lot of miniatures in gachapon, and this is a great example of some miniatures. This is a miniature telephone that looks just exactly like a Japanese payphone, and I think that's really interesting. The detail is incredible, of course. And this thing cost me about 500 yen, so you know, you get what you pay for with these little figurines. It's a really high quality model, which I guess if I had a scene or something that I wanted to use for stop motion, this would be really easy to use, you know. I don't, so it just sits in my living room, but you know, these figurines really can be multi-purpose, I guess, if you're building a doll's house or if you've got a model train kit or something like that. I can see these being put to really great use. Another one that I really love is this one, which used part of the Gachapon ball. This base is actually part of the ball that he came in, and then that came apart like this and became the base for this little mini Godzilla figurine, which I think is really fantastic and a really good use of the excess plastic. So that's really clever. On the same note, one of my favorites, probably my favorite, is this Boba Fett. And this head was in fact the monster ball type Gachapon ball that he came in. So it's quite small actually compared to the others. And I'm gonna try to crack him open now. You can see there's a joint on the top, so it should be fairly easy, but I haven't done it in a while. No, that's not coming open. But anyway, the body was actually inside as well as the stand. You cracked it open, put the body attached to the head, and the whole thing, there's no waste, there's no excess plastic, it's all here, which I thought was really clever and a really cool way to make a bobblehead looking Boba Fett. Boba Fett the bobblehead. So that's really cool. So yeah, if you come to Japan, I would recommend checking out a Gachapon store. Some of the more famous places that you can find them are Narita Airport has a Gachapon area at the ground level near the bus terminal and near the train station. So you should definitely check that out if you're entering or leaving Japan as a great souvenir gift. Akihabara also has a couple of Gachapon stores, so that's a great place to also check out some Gachapon. And even some local places are popping up, like this Gachapon store that I visited in some of this footage was in my neighborhood, which is not Tokyo. It's a kind of local place, but the appeal is growing even in Japan. So even local places are opening up now. So you'll definitely be able to find one if you put your feelers out when you're in Japan. Who would I recommend this for? I reckon anybody who needs a cheap souvenir to bring back to, where they're from. So for example, if you're traveling to Japan and you need some gifts for people, they're light, they're cheap, they're easy to assemble, they're great gifts to bring back from Japan, and they can be really weird as well. Like I've got some pretty interesting things like the model payphone and also some other weird stuff which you'll probably have seen in this footage. There's some really unique ideas out there and they can really show off the more zany side of Japan through these figurines. So if you've got some souvenirs that you need to buy, Gachapon's a great idea. If you're really into miniatures or just collecting, this can be quite addicting, especially if the set has a lot of variation. Like the Godzilla that I previously showed, I have like 7 of these figurines, all of different Godzillas. And the Japanese Spider-Man that I showed, also I have like 3 or 4 of those, including a robot that he pilots in the Japanese Spider-Man series and a couple of different poses. There's a real luck of the draw to Gachapon as well, so if you don't get what you want, it can be a little bit disheartening, but that's a good chance to just give what you don't need away and keep the ones that you want. So yeah, there's a kind of gambling mechanic to it. You're not really sure what you're gonna get, and it can feel a little bit Loot Crate-esque. And I've heard in the gaming community, loot crates compared to Gachapon. The difference is it's a physical item. You know what you're gonna get. Well, you don't know exactly what you're gonna get, but you're gonna get some variation of 5 or 6 different figurines, and all of them are usually pretty good. And I've only gotten doubles a couple of times, so I never feel ripped off. And they're fairly easy to get rid of. Like I said, you can give them to friends and family. It's not like you're gonna be stuck with these things for very long. So in the case of my Japanese Spider-Man, I've given a couple of doubles that I got away to friends and stuff, so it's pretty easy. Would I recommend spending a lot of money on these? Honestly, I've spent probably too much money on Gachapon in my life, maybe hundreds of dollars. I wouldn't recommend going as crazy as that, but it's definitely something you should try out, and it is an experience completely unique to Japan and very well worth checking out. So if you have a chance and you're in Japan, definitely Google like Gachapon store or Gacha store. I think the one in Akihabara is called Akihabara Gachapon Hall. That's quite a famous one. And even if you're in Narita Airport, you might just stumble across the one that's near the train station at Narita Airport. So, there's plenty of opportunities presenting to you if you want to get these figurines. So that's it from me. I hope you've learned something. Like I mentioned, they're kind of interesting historically as well. These guys were, at least the plastic ball was the inspiration for the Pokeball in Pokemon, which I think is really cool. And there have been other animated series based entirely off Gachapon as a concept. I think the Gundam latest Gundam series with the mini versions of the Gundam integrates Gachapon into its storyline. So they're kind of a culturally significant point here in Japan. So you're also, if you come here, you're experiencing part of Japanese kind of otaku culture. So yeah, check them out if you can. Head over to Japan and please let me know in the comments what you'd like to hear about next. And if you've bought Gachapon before, let me know what Gachapon you've bought in the past, how much you spent, and how many doubles you got. Alright, I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye!